Queen Vara of the Stellan Empire stood at the viewport of her palace, watching the twin moons rise over the crystalline spires of her capital world. Her scales shimmered with an iridescent purple that denoted both her royal lineage and her current state of contemplation. Behind her, diplomatic envoys from 12 star systems waited for her decision. But her mind drifted to the human. She had wed 3 cycles ago, that the marriage had been political necessity wrapped in genuine affection. The Stellan Empire needed Earth's strategic location in the galactic arm, and Earth needed protection from the expanding Drath collective. Thomas Blake, a mid-level human diplomat with kind eyes and an easy smile, had volunteered for the Union. He was unremarkable by human standards. Average height, brown hair going gray at the temples, no augmentations, no combat training listed in his files. Perfect for a ceremonial husband who would stay out of galactic politics. Vara had grown fond of him despite herself. He learned her language, adapted to her world's heavier gravity without complaint, and never demanded the power his position could have granted him. He spent his days in the palace gardens, cultivating earth plants in specially designed domes, teaching her staff about human agriculture. At night, he would tell her stories of Earth, painting pictures with words of blue oceans and green forests that made her long to see his homeworld. "Your Majesty," her chief advisor Kellen interrupted her thoughts, his 6 eyes blinking in sequence. "The Drath Armada has entered the outer system. They demand we surrender the human territories or face annihilation." Vara's scales darkened to deep violet, the color of Stellan rage. The Drath collective had been probing their borders for years, but this was open war. Her fleet was powerful, but the Drath brought 300 warships, each bristling with weapons that could crack a planet's crust. "Mobilize the fleet," she commanded. "We will meet them at the—" "If I may, my love," Thomas said quietly from the doorway. He wore simple clothes, dirt still under his fingernails from his morning in the gardens. "Perhaps I should speak with them first." The envoys chittered and buzzed with barely concealed amusement. Kellen's scales flushed with embarrassment for the human. "Honored consort, the Drath do not negotiate. They conquer or they destroy." Thomas smiled that gentle smile that had first endeared him to Vara. "Then I suppose negotiation is off the table." Something in his tone made Vara pause. In 3 years of marriage, she had never heard that particular edge in his voice, like a blade hidden in silk. "Thomas, what are you—" "I should have told you sooner," he said, walking to the viewport and gazing at the stars where the Drath fleet approached. "Earth sent me because I volunteered, yes, but not because I was expendable. I volunteered because I was the only human who could guarantee your safety if things went wrong. I don't understand." Thomas turned to face her, and Vara felt her blood chill. His eyes, which had always been warm brown, now held something ancient and dangerous. "Before I was a diplomat, I was something else. Something Earth doesn't advertise to the galaxy." He tapped his chest, and Vara's advanced sensors suddenly screamed with readings that couldn't be real. The power signature emanating from the human was impossible. It exceeded her own biometric readings by orders of magnitude. "Earth's files said you had no augmentations," Kellen whispered, his scales pale with shock. "I don't," Thomas replied. "What I have is training, conditioning, genetic optimization that took 30 years to complete. On Earth, we call it the Titan program." He looked at Vara with something like apology in his expression. "I'm sorry I kept this from you. Earth's government thought it better if the galaxy believed we were weak. Easier to make friends when people don't fear you. How many like you exist?" Vara asked, her voice steady despite her racing hearts. 12. Each of us assigned to crucial alliance worlds. We're humanity's insurance policy." The palace shuddered as the Drath fleet entered weapons range. Warning klaxons blared through the corridors. On the tactical display, Vara watched her fleet of 70 ships move to intercept 300 Drath vessels. The mathematics were brutal. Even with superior Stellan technology, they would be overwhelmed within hours. "I need to reach their flagship," Thomas said calmly, as if discussing the weather. "Can your ships provide transport?" "To what end?" "Assassination of their commander changes nothing. The Drath fight on regardless." Thomas shook his head. "I'm not going to kill their commander. I'm going to offer them a choice. Leave peacefully, or face what humans can really do. One man, even an augmented one, cannot. I'm not augmented, my queen. I'm something your technology can't create. I'm the result of mankind pushing its natural evolution to the absolute limit of what biology allows." He placed his hand on the crystalline wall, and Vara watched with astonishment as hairline cracks spread from his touch. "Human muscle fiber is less efficient than yours, but we discovered we could rewrite our cellular structure to match what our ancestors developed for persistence hunting. We made ourselves into living weapons." He smiled apologetically. "The garden work helps me maintain fine motor control. Without something delicate to focus on, I tend to break things accidentally." Kellen found his voice. "Even if you could board their flagship and somehow survive their security, what message could one human possibly send?" "The message that Earth's weakness is a choice, not a condition." Vara made her decision. If Thomas was truly what he claimed, she would see it proven. If not, they were doomed anyway. "Kellen, prepare a stealth insertion craft. Consort Thomas will have his chance." The small ship detached from the palace, invisible to Drath sensors, thanks to Stellan technology. Vara watched from her command center as it approached the massive Drath flagship, a vessel 3 kilometers long and bristling with enough firepower to sterilize a continent. Thomas stood in the craft's airlock, wearing a simple pressure suit with no armor, no weapons visible. "One more thing you should know," his voice came through her private channel. "I really do love the gardening, and I really do love you." None of that was a performance. Before she could respond, he launched himself into space, that what happened next would become legend across 1,000 worlds. Thomas Blake moved through the void with impossible precision, using tiny course corrections from his suit to navigate the storm of point defense fire that erupted from the Drath flagship. He was too small, too agile, moving in patterns that the automated systems couldn't predict. Within 90 seconds, he reached the hull. Vara's sensors showed him punching through reinforced battle plate with his bare hands, tearing a hole in armor that could withstand plasma cannons. He disappeared inside, and for 3 minutes there was only silence. Then the Drath flagship's weapons went dead. Its shields dropped. Its engines powered down. On every frequency, the voice of the Drath commander broadcasted a single message: retreat. Retreat immediately. The humans are not what we believed. The Drath Armada turned and fled. 300 warships running from one unarmed man. Thomas returned 4 hours later, his pressure suit torn and scorched, blood seeping from a dozen wounds that were already healing before Vara's eyes. He collapsed in her throne room, exhausted but alive. "What did you do?" she asked, kneeling beside him. "I fought through 80 decks of their flagship, disabled their command staff without killing anyone, which was the hard part. Then I had a conversation with their leader about what would happen if the other 11 Titans were deployed to Drath worlds." He coughed, wincing. "They're warriors. They understand strength. Now they understand that humanity has been holding back. Why?" Vara demanded. "Why hide this? Why let the galaxy think you were prey animals barely reaching for the stars?" Thomas looked at her with those deceptively gentle eyes. "Because we learned something during our wars on Earth, before we unified. We learned that being the strongest doesn't mean you should rule. It means you have a responsibility to protect. We hid our strength because we didn't want to be conquerors. We wanted to be partners. He reached up and touched her face with surprising gentleness, given that those same hands had torn through a warship. I didn't deceive you about who I am in here. He tapped his chest. I'm still the man who loves gardening and your laugh and the way you hum while reading reports. I'm just also the man who can fight a small army if that's what it takes to keep you safe. Vara felt her scales shift through a dozen colors as she processed this revelation. The human she had married out of political necessity, who she had come to love for his quiet kindness, was one of the most dangerous beings in the galaxy. And he had spent 3 years gardening and learning her culture and making her smile. The others like you, she finally said. Where are they? Married into 11 other crucial alliances, same as me. Living quiet lives, hoping they never have to show what they can do. He smiled weakly. Though I suppose the secret's out now. You could have told me sooner. Would you have believed me? Would you have trusted me? Vara considered this. If Thomas had arrived claiming to be a super soldier, she would have seen him as a threat or a boast. Instead, he had proven himself through patience, kindness, and only revealing his strength when those he loved were in danger. That was the true measure of power, knowing when not to use it. The galaxy will react poorly to this news, Kellen observed, his voice carrying the weight of someone imagining the political fallout. Thomas nodded. Probably. But maybe it's time for honesty. Humanity is strong enough to stand beside the great powers, not behind them. We just wanted to be asked to the table, not feared into it. Vara helped her husband to his feet, supporting his weight even though she suspected he could have managed on his own. Around them, her court watched with new eyes, seeing the human not as a curiosity or a diplomatic token, but as what he truly was, a guardian who had chosen peace until peace was no longer possible. Come, she said softly. Let me tend your wounds. Then you can tell me everything about this Titan program. No more secrets between us. Thomas smiled, and despite everything she had just learned, it was the same warm smile that had won her heart. No more secrets. Though I warn you, the story takes a while. We have time, Vara replied, her scales shifting to the soft blue of Stellan affection. We have all the time in the worlds. As they walked through the palace corridors, past bowing courtiers and shocked advisors, Vara reflected on the strange fortune that had brought this human into her life. The galaxy had thought Earth was weak, easy to manipulate or conquer. They had been catastrophically wrong, but more than that, they had misunderstood what human strength truly meant. It was not the ability to destroy, though Thomas had certainly demonstrated that capacity. It was the choice to build instead of break, to nurture gardens in alien soil, to love across species and stars, and to only bare one's fangs when those you loved were threatened. The Drath would spread the word, and the galaxy would learn what humanity had known all along, that true power lies not in the strength you show, but in the strength you choose not to use, and in the gentle hands that could both cultivate roses and tear through battle plate. Vara had found something more valuable than any military alliance. She had found a partner worthy of standing beside a queen.